House Bill 320, an act relating to taxation. Representative Reade.
Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentleman from LaRue for explanation of the bill and motion thereon.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from LaRue for explanation of bill and motion thereon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will you please have the clerk report Committee Sub 1, please?
Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 320.
Gentleman from LaRue.
Move for adoption.
Motion is for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by voting aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from LaRue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, this bill does two things. It moves broadband forward in the Commonwealth of Kentucky with significant investment, making a declaration that this is a necessity in Commonwealth of Kentucky, and also helps provide in that manner. I would like to especially thank the gentleman from Todd for his guidance and mentorship with the A&R committee as him and I have worked together on this, and I appreciate his guidance and intellect on this matter. I also want to thank the gentleman from Scott. Last year in the 2020 session, he passed House Bill 362, which was the Broadband Deployment Fund. I'd like to thank the gentleman from Scott. Thank you so much for that legislation that this will help with. House Bill 320 with the committee sub will clear the way for rural electric cooperatives to feasibly provide broadband service to unserved and underserved households and businesses through an affiliate. However, for the sole purpose of facilitating the extension of broadband service to underserved and unserved populations, a few of those provisions need reasonable modifications and exceptions. Section 1 of the committee sub deals with that, with the PSC language. It lease access capacity and fiber optic cable to be used to support for cooperatives distribution system. Issue securities or evidence of indebtedness not to exceed 25% of the net book value of its assets for the sole purpose of capitalizing to an affiliate. Pledge up to 25% of the net book value of its assets and collateral for a loan entered into by the affiliate for providing broadband services. Importantly, the Public Service Commission will still have to approve the issuance of securities or pledge of assets. It would also still have to control over issuance of certificates of public convenience and necessity related to construction of fiber optic systems. It allows access but not overstep current relationships. Section 2 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, of the committee sub, appropriates the money, and at this time I would yield to the gentleman from Lincoln 80 for a friendly floor amendment. For a friendly floor amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the gentleman from LaRue and all who have worked on this. For years, and I mean many years, we have talked about the need for broadband expansion in rural areas of this state. And all of us from those rural districts know firsthand that we have constituents that have zero access to internet. And I'm not just talking about high-speed internet, but I'm talking about access to internet, period. Some of our areas have 3 to 4 homes per mile, and those areas will never be enticing to those large communication companies to service. We've seen that year after year as we have been up here passing legislation to deregulate telecom companies and to establish avenues for additional money to entice them to expand to that last mile. And when I say last mile, I mean to the last house on that small county back road in rural areas. We have seen that everything we have done has not been able to accomplish this ultimate goal. But with this bill, we are making a giant leap towards that goal. With this bill, we are saying to rural Kentucky, we know your need, we have heard you, and we care for you. We are getting creative with this bill, and we're looking at new avenues to get broadband to the last mile so that that student can have access that they need to better educate themselves with the internet. to open up economic opportunities to rural areas by having the access needed to work from home or supply broadband to companies that are expanding in rural Kentucky. This is a great bill, but we have the opportunity right now to make this a terrific bill, and we need to do that. We have worked on this for years. This bill makes an impact on rural Kentucky, but let's adjust it to make a tremendous impact. Let's up the stakes to ensure even further that we can offer this opportunity to everyone on that last mile. I've spoken with all those who are involved in this bill, and we all agree that we should do just that and up those stakes. So, Mr. Speaker, we have House Floor Amendment 1. However, I didn't get that filed until just a few minutes ago. So in order for me to call this, I've got to suspend the rules to do that. But what this floor amendment does, it should be on your screen as we get ready to pull it up. This floor amendment takes the money that's deposited in this fund and moves it from $100 million to $250 million. We have the federal money available now. This pandemic has shown us the need for this. So those of us from rural Kentucky are asking this body to make a tremendous impact. And like I said, Mr. Speaker, in order for me to call this amendment, I have to request to suspend the rules. And so, Mr. Speaker, I make the motion to suspend the rules to consider House Floor Amendment 1.
Motion is to suspend the rules for the purpose of allowing the gentleman to act on House Floor Amendment 1. Motion is non-debatable, requires a vote of 51. Roll call machine is open for your vote. Those in favor of suspension of the rules vote aye. Those opposed, nay. Clerk will take the roll. There being 81 votes in favor of suspension of the rules are suspended. Gentlemen, your House Floor Amendment 1 is now in order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask the clerk to call House Floor Amendment 1.
Clerk, please report.
House Floor Amendment 1 to House Bill 320.
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Mr. Speaker, in this floor amendment, what we do is we move the $100 million to $250 million. In the first section where it says that we were putting in $20 million, we're moving that to $30 million. The second section, we're moving from $40 million to $70 million. And the third section, we move from $40 million to $150 million. And Mr. Speaker, everyone in this body has given a valiant effort to expand broadband across this state, and I greatly appreciate every single one of you. But those of us from rural areas of this state have waited and waited, and we've become impatient. And it's time to do something. The funds are here. The need is evident. So let's strike while the iron is hot. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Floor Amendment 1.
Motion is for the adoption of House Floor Amendment 1. Lady from Fayette 88, do you wish to discuss the amendment, or you're recognized to do so?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the floor amendment sponsor yield to a question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, am I understanding you right that this is using some of our one-time money that we have because of the pandemic and federal government money?
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Not exactly. This will come from the general fund to be funded, and however we choose to do that. But I'm just saying that right now we have a lot of one-time money. We'll probably see CARES Acts 3 and 4 come through. We'll have a lot of money influxed into the state, and this is the opportunity to help our rural districts.
Lady from Fayette. Lady from Jefferson 34, do you wish to? Motion is for the adoption of House Floor Amendment 1. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by voting aye. Those opposed, nay. House Floor Amendment 1 is adopted. Gentleman from LaRue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now that we have more money to allocate and to invest into the broadband for the Commonwealth of Kentucky, I will briefly explain how that will work. Continue on with Section 2. Funds appropriated for the third and fourth quarters cannot be distributed until all monies from the previous quarter are awarded. It requires the administering agency to promulgate regulations to ensure that preference is given to projects in underserved and unserved census blocks, projects in areas that are not currently receiving federal broadband funds, projects that reach the customers that are least economical to serve. An RFP will be issued for projects. Projects will require a private match of at least 50%. Project scope is for the smallest feasible geographic area. So with the money that we're allocating now with the committee, with the House floor amendment of $250 million, that will quickly turn into $500 million, Mr. Speaker. That is a significant investment. The minister and agency is given permission to provide incentive for timely completions and disincentive for not meeting upon agreement time frames. Mr. Speaker, with that, I move for adoption of House Bill 320 as amended by the committee sub and House Floor Amendment 1.